Deep within the Emerald Vale, where sunbeams fell in shafts of gold through towering ancient trees, there lived a dragon unlike any other. While most dragons were cloaked in scales of iron gray or emerald green or blazing crimson, hers shimmered with the color of twilight roses, vivid pink with ridges tipped in hints of gold. Her wings spread like silken petals, and when the wind caught her just right, she looked as though she were a living blossom taking flight. Her name was Lyriath, though the villagers who glimpsed her from afar called her simply the Rose Dragon. Part 2. A Dragon Born of Legend. Lyriath was not born of ordinary dragonkind. The elders told stories of a falling star that had struck the vale on a night when the forest bloomed out of season. In the crater, they said, a single egg glowed like a gemstone. That egg hatched into a dragonette unlike the world had ever seen, her scales soft pink, her eyes like molten copper, and her spirit filled with an unusual gentleness. Dragons were feared across kingdoms for their tempers and fire, but Lyriath's flame was not of destruction. When she exhaled, her breath came as warm, rosy smoke that carried the fragrance of blooming flowers. Birds did not scatter from her wings. Instead, they perched on her horns as though she were one of them. Yet for all her beauty and kindness, Lyriath grew up lonely. Dragons of her color and kind did not exist in the world, at least none she had ever found. Part 3. Whispers in the Forest. The people of nearby Thistlemere village spoke often of her. Some feared her, whispering that her strange hue meant she was cursed or touched by dangerous magic. Others believed she was a blessing sent by the forest gods. Children left little offerings of berries and wildflowers at the edge of the woods, hoping she would hear their prayers. For years, Lyriath kept her distance. She watched the village from treetop shadows, curious about humans yet unwilling to frighten them. Her heart longed for companionship, but she remembered the stories her mother had told her before vanishing into the mountains. Humans hunt what they do not understand. My daughter, even the brightest flower can be feared if it blooms too differently. Part 4. That fate has a way of weaving unexpected threads. The Wounded Knight. One spring evening, when the forest was alight with fireflies, Lyriath heard a sound that froze her heart, a cry of pain. She followed it to a clearing where a young knight lay wounded, his leg pierced by the broken shaft of a spear. His armor was battered, and his sword lay discarded beside him. Lyriath approached cautiously, her scales glowing faintly in the moonlight. The knight, though pale and bleeding, did not scream when he saw her. Instead, he stared in awe. You're real," he whispered. "The Rose Dragon?" Lyriath lowered her head, her copper eyes soft. "Be still. You are hurt." To his astonishment, her voice was clear as a bell, though it rumbled from deep within her chest. With great care, she nudged away the broken spear and breathed a gentle stream of her rosy flame over the wound. The knight gasped, expecting pain, but instead, warmth spread through his leg, and the bleeding slowed. Her fire did not burn, it healed. The knight's name was Sir Elric of Roanwatch, and from that night onward, his life would never be the same. Part 6. A Bond Forged in Secret. Elric returned often to the forest, at first leaning on a crutch, later walking strong and free. He and Lyriath formed a quiet friendship. They spoke of many things, he of the human world, its wars, and castles and politics, she of the forest, its animals and secrets. For Elric, she was a marvel, a reminder that not all dragons were creatures of fire and death. For Lyriath, he was proof that not all humans feared what was different, but they kept their bond secret. Elric knew the lords of his kingdom would see her as a weapon to be captured, while Lyriath feared her presence might bring hunters to her vale. So they met only under moonlight in hidden glades where fireflies danced like stars. Part 7. And yet secrets rarely remain hidden forever. The Coming of the Hunters. One fateful morning, a band of mercenaries entered the vale. Word had spread of a pink-scaled dragon worth a king's ransom. They carried nets laced with iron, crossbows tipped with poison, and cruel laughter on their lips. Lyria sensed them before she saw them. She would have flown deeper into the mountains, but she could not abandon the creatures of her forest, nor her friend. Elric, upon hearing of the hunters, raced into the woods to warn her. He found her in the clearing where they had first met, her wings flaring like rose petals in alarm. "You must fly," Elric urged. "They'll stop at nothing to take you." "I will not leave my home," Lyriath said firmly. "If they wish to harm the Vale, then they must face me." And so the Rose Dragon stood her ground. Part 9, Battle in the Vale. The hunters came with ropes, shouting and firing bolts that whistled through the air. Lyriath's wings beat like thunder, creating gusts that sent men sprawling. She unleashed her flame, but instead of burning them to ash, the rosy fire disoriented, blinding them with waves of heat and blossoms of smoke. Still they pressed on. A poisoned bolt grazed her wing, and pain seared through her. She faltered, crashing to the ground. It was then that Elric stood before her, sword drawn. "You will not harm her," he declared, though outnumbered 12 to 1. The mercenaries laughed at the lone knight, but Lyria's courage surged at his side. She rose, roaring, a sound that shook the very trees. Her scales flared with light, as if every petal of her body had caught fire. Together, dragon and knight fought as one. Elric's blade flashed in the chaos, cutting down nets and ropes, while Lyriath swept her tail like a storm, sending hunters flying. Her flame filled the forest, not with death, but with a vision of roses blooming in smoke, dazzling and overwhelming her enemies. At last, the mercenaries fled, broken and terrified. Few believed the tale they later told, that the Rose Dragon fought not as a beast, but as a guardian. Part 10, The Guardian of the Vale. Wounded but alive, Lyriath turned to Elric. "You risked your life for me," she said softly. "As you once did for me," he replied, smiling faintly despite his exhaustion. From that day forward, Lyriath was no longer just a myth whispered by villagers. She became the guardian of the Vale, a protector of forest and people alike. The villagers who once feared her came to leave her gifts of fruit, honey, and flowers, not out of fear, but gratitude. Children ran laughing through the meadows, hoping to catch a glimpse of her pink wings above the trees. And Elric remained by her side, not as master or knight, but as friend, perhaps something even deeper. Part 11, The Song That Never Faded. Years passed, and legends grew. Travelers spoke of a dragon whose scales shone like rose petals in sunlight, who healed with her breath and guarded her forest with unyielding love. Poets sang of the knight who fought beside her, and together they became symbols of a bond stronger than fear, greed, or difference. As for Lyriath herself, she never sought to be queen of dragons or terror of kingdoms. She was content to be what she had always been, unique, gentle, radiant as the dawn. And when the wind swept through the Emerald Vale, carrying the fragrance of unseen roses, the people knew she was near, watching, protecting, and reminding them that beauty, even when strange and unexpected, could be the greatest gift the world had to offer.